Y'all truly don't know nails if y'all think $80 is crazy for a pair of these. Of acrylic butterfly nails?
That's why I wasn't friends with you anyways. I just went along with it because you was throwing me money. Let's tell the real truth. Let's tell the real truth, y'all.
Can y'all help me, please?
Oh, this is real life. Like, I'm really going to be homeless.
I'm willing to help myself, y'all. I don't have a pot to piss in.
If everyone could send $1, I still need $40 for my phone bill, y'all.
In my phone bill, y'all. I owe $100 on my phone bill every 2 weeks.
If you've spent any time on Nail Talk over the past few years, there's one name that's almost impossible to avoid: Carrie Walls. At first glance, her page might look like your typical nail influencer account, with colorful sets, polish hauls, and the occasional tutorial. But spend more than a minute scrolling, and you'll realize this is far from the truth. Carrie has built a reputation not for her nail art, but for her constant requests for money. It's always just another $40 here, a little help with bills there, until it becomes clear that the begging isn't an occasional slip, it's habitual.
If everyone could send $1, I still need $40 for my phone bill, y'all.
And when she's not pleading for donations, she's caught up in shady sales and outright scams, leaving her fans short on cash and empty-handed. What makes it even more bizarre is that almost everyone seems to be in on the joke except Carrie herself. She continues posting, live streaming, and asking for handouts as if her audience hasn't already pieced it all together. She's been called out hundreds of times by other influencers and fans alike, but she just doesn't seem to learn her lesson. If you happen to be one of the few lucky people who hasn't stumbled across Carrie Walls yet, TikTok's very own 33-year-old Barbie wannabe, then count your blessings. But don't get too comfortable, because today we're diving headfirst into the chaos. From the endless lies she tells, to the countless cons she's pulled, to the scams that have somehow kept her afloat as an influencer, Carrie has left a trail of disappointed fans and empty wallets in her wake. Carrie first appeared on TikTok in 2022, introducing herself to the platform through her love of nails and the different sets she created. She presented herself as knowledgeable about nails and marketed herself as a down-on-her-luck woman running a legitimate business, which helped her quickly gain sympathy and attention from viewers.
Girl, y'all are crazy. Y'all don't know nails. Y'all truly don't know nails if y'all think $80 is crazy for a pair of these. Of acrylic butterfly nails? And they're reusable? No, y'all sound crazy.
Between her live stream demonstrations and the way she marketed her designs, Carrie quickly built a following. Her original account, @CarrieWalls7, managed to climb past 100,000 followers, a milestone many small creators struggled to reach. At the time, she seemed like she was on her way to being a genuine success story, but that was only the surface. Because behind the curated videos and polished sets, Carrie was laying the foundation for the behavior that would eventually define her online presence. The live streams that helped her grow her platform became less about showing off her nail designs and more about monetizing her viewers in the most uncomfortable ways possible. Carrie often used these live streams as a kind of sales pitch, but pitch is putting it lightly. In reality, the streams often turned into drawn-out begging sessions. She spent hours urging viewers to either send her money directly or buy nails from her on the spot. And when fans didn't immediately purchase, she wouldn't just shrug it off and move on to the next person.
I'll do these for $80 for somebody. No, I'm not monetized on TikTok. I don't get paid. Thank you, Shannon. No, Erica, stuff is not okay, really. I'm just going to be honest. Michelle, I have these. And Michelle, I do customs too. If you don't like the ones I have, I do customs. Thank you, Sassy. Right. Y'all, I make the glitters as people order.
Instead, she called them out directly in real time, scolding or guilt-tripping them for not supporting her. This created an atmosphere that was less about community and more about financial pressure. Viewers didn't feel like they were simply watching a nail artist share her work. They felt like they were being coerced into spending money.
And when I said, oh man, I can't believe she did that, she messaged back quinkadinkly and said, oh, I was going to, but now I'm not, I'm out. You never was. You disappeared. Girl, but people are really...
And for the viewers who did buy nails from her, the problems only grew. Over and over, customers reported that the sets they received were nothing like what Carrie showed off on TikTok. Instead of the neat, glossy, picture-perfect nails she advertised, the products that arrived in the mail were often broken, incorrectly sized, or just plain poor quality. Some were glued unevenly, others had designs that looked rushed, and many arrived scratched or chipped. And in plenty of cases, the nails didn't arrive at all. Orders would vanish without explanation, and when customers asked about them, Carrie dodged the question, shifted blame, or claimed that the buyer was lying. Her approach to customer service made things even worse. While most small businesses treat complaints as a chance to fix mistakes and build trust, Carrie did the opposite. Anytime someone questioned her about missing orders or poor quality nails, she treated it as a personal attack. She regularly accused buyers of making things up, calling them trolls who never bought from her in the first place. And even when screenshots, payment receipts, and timestamps were provided, she continued to deny responsibility. For Carrie, it was easier to paint herself as the victim than admit she had failed to deliver.
This is Carrie Walls, and she has a small business here on TikTok where she makes custom nails. Well, allegedly, she's been ripping off her paying customers. Allegation 1, she accepts money, but then doesn't fulfill the order. Exhibit A.
I made for one of my babies. He wanted like vampire golf themed, but still a little glam.
No, I didn't get that.
I'm telling y'all, do not buy no nails from that Carrie Wells, Carrie whatever girl. Don't buy no nails from her because you never get the product. You get the product.
Exhibit D. Ordered mine on 12/19/2022. This is when Carrie Walls allegedly started telling people, oh, sorry, I can't fulfill your order yet because my mom is sick. And this lady is saying, well, I ordered my nails a month before the mom even got sick. Allegation 2. Those who do receive nails receive very low quality nails. The rhinestones are falling off. They don't look how they looked on her pictures and videos.
They're sticky. They got glue all over them right here. This is all come off here. My stones gonna feel off.
Exhibit G, a nice older lady named Joanne spent $120 on these nails, and this is how they showed up. Joanne Loves Cats 4 says, and that's only one set, she owes me 2 more. And then when Joanne confronts Carrie about this, she's mean to her.
Joanne, and you know why. I'm tired of you too.
And yet another client who did not receive their nails asks about their nails from December, and this is in January. Carrie blocks them. Speckled Hyde says, can you tell me when you're going to ship my order from December? You can see at the top where I circled it, you were muted by Carrie Wall 7. And last but not least, this is Carrie asking to borrow $100 till Thursday, and guess I can send out my packages. I didn't even want to ask, but I'll pay you back. This to me looks like she's asking the customer to give her more money so that she can ship the orders that they already paid for. Carrie Walls, you've been accused of scamming your customers. What do you have to say for yourself?
Then there's the issue of pricing. Carrie's nails were not just mediocre in quality, they were absurdly overpriced. While many independent nail techs sell sets for reasonable rates that reflect both the material and the artistry, Carrie routinely charged premium prices that didn't come close to matching what she delivered. But the inflated numbers were only part of the scheme. She had a pattern of adding extra charges after a sale she had already made. Shipping suddenly cost more than expected, supplies supposedly ran out, or she simply claimed she needed a little extra help to make the order work. Customers who had already paid felt pressured into sending more, often against their better judgment, because they just wanted their order to finally arrive. The manipulation was always framed in the same way. Carrie leaned into her persona as a struggling, unlucky influencer, someone who was just trying to make ends meet. She constantly reminded people of her supposed hardships, framing any extra payment as a favor rather than an obligation. This wasn't just marketing, it was emotional leverage. By presenting herself as broke and desperate, she made buyers feel guilty if they refused to send the additional money she asked for. Even on Instagram, where she handled direct sales outside of TikTok's system, the same routine played out. Buyers would message her for nails, agree on a price, send their money, and then be met with new excuses before anything was shipped. There was always another excuse. Postage costs more than she thought. Supplies ran out. She needed a little extra to make it work. And for buyers who just want the nails they already paid for, it was an exhausting cycle of being pressured to send more money with no guarantee that they'll actually get what was promised in the first place. One of the clearest examples of Carrie pushing her customers to pay more than what was agreed on actually surfaced through screenshots shared online. In this case, one of her moderators told a fan who was eager to buy a set of nails that there were two options: one set for $60 or a buy one get one deal for $130. The customer had already purchased the $60 set before, so she sent the payment and then followed up to ask for details about her order. That's when Carrie suddenly changed the rules. She told the buyer that the $60 option had already expired because it was supposedly reserved for just one girl who had already claimed it. The customer pointed out that Carrie herself had said earlier that no one had purchased the nails yet, which made the entire excuse sound suspicious. Carrie's response to that was that she had only said no one bought them yet because the other girl was going to pay, and therefore in her mind it did not count as sold. The customer then politely asked for a refund of the $60 she had already spent, explaining that she simply did not have $130 to spare. However, instead of returning the money, Carrie tried to play nice. She told the buyer she would still send her the nails, but only if she added another $20. And to make it sound like a favor, she sugar-coated the demand with pet names and flattery. Her exact words were along the lines of, "No, I'm being really nice, sweetheart. I only said one girl could get the deal, baby girl, but I feel bad, so I'm giving you the deal, just 20 more. I don't even charge you for shipping, love." Now this is a common tactic for Carrie. She loads her messages with affectionate language to make it seem like she's being generous, when in reality she's pressuring people into paying more. The customer who had been watching Carrie's live streams regularly pointed out that she had seen the payment go through live at the exact time it happened, and Carrie had said nothing about the deal being unavailable. Instead of addressing that fact, Carrie brushed it off and doubled down, saying that if the buyer would not send $20, she should at least send another $10 for shipping because Carrie didn't have any money for shipping. In the end, the customer gave in and sent the extra $10, hoping that would settle the issue. She waited patiently for her nails to arrive, but as so often happens with Carrie Walls, that was not the end of the story. Just 2 days after receiving the additional payment, Carrie turned around and sent her customer a string of angry texts. Instead of updating her on shipping, she was calling her a liar and even insulting her outright, which is about as far from professional as it gets. The reason for this sudden outburst? Carrie had convinced herself that the customer was bad-mouthing her over the fiasco from earlier. Her exact words were along the lines of, "You're a liar, you know. You heard that person wanted the deal before you. You're just a troll like the rest of them. Before I send your nails out, I will be doing a video on them showing how good they are because I already know what you're about to do." The paranoia behind that message was clear. By this point, plenty of people had already uploaded unboxing videos of Carrie's nails, and the majority of them were negative. Sets arrived broken, sized incorrectly, or simply didn't arrive at all. And reviewers made sure to document it. Rather than addressing those complaints, Carrie brushed them off as part of some grand scheme against her. Whenever she was confronted with proof of her scams, she denied everything, insisting that the people speaking out were simply trolls who never bought from her in the first place and were only trying to ruin her image. The confused customer pushed back, saying she wasn't sure how she could be lying when there was a screen recording of Carrie's live showing her openly asking viewers to buy the nails, and no one did until she paid. That was the extent of her argument. But Carrie wasn't about to let it go. Instead, she twisted the story, claiming that another girl had texted her first and was just about to send money to her mods at the same time the customer made her purchase. Of course, this didn't explain the most obvious issue. During the live stream, Carrie had said nothing to the customer about anyone else being interested, and she had watched the payment go through without raising a word of concern. The customer, still polite, reminded Carrie that she had asked for her money back since she couldn't afford the inflated price. Rather than refunding her, Carrie doubled down, guilting her fan into paying more by framing it as if she was doing her a favor. When the customer pointed out that she had asked for a refund because she believed Carrie had lied about there being another buyer, Carrie immediately became defensive. She accused the customer of talking as if the very act of suggesting Carrie had lied was some kind of attack. It was a classic deflection tactic, shifting blame back onto the buyer instead of addressing the real issue. Then, realizing how weak her excuse sounded, Carrie changed her story again, insisting that the customer had clearly heard another girl was supposed to buy the nails. At one point, Carrie even claimed she had proof. She said the customer had denied the existence of this so-called other girl and that she had screenshots of it. But when the customer calmly asked her to show the exact moment or provide the evidence, Carrie refused. Instead of producing receipts, she snapped back with, "I'm not about to go back and forth with you. I have no reason to lie. I have all my lives and can go back and prove that there was a girl who was supposed to pay for the deals before you, so don't tell me what the F I'm lying in this. And yet proof never came. For all of Carrie's claims about having the receipts, she didn't send the customer a single screenshot or clip. It was all bluster, an attempt to intimidate and gaslight someone who had already paid, hoping the customer would eventually give up rather than continue pressing her for answers. The customer then calmly reminded Carrie that the deal had always been simple. Whoever paid first would get the nails. She had paid first, and by that standard alone, she should have received them regardless of whether there was another girl in the picture or not. At that point, she was not even concerned about the extra $10 Carrie had squeezed out of her. She just wanted the nails she had already paid for. But instead of resolving the issue, Carrie doubled down. She kept attacking the customer and dragging the situation into more unnecessary drama, using leaps in logic that made no sense. At one moment, she argued that since the other girl had called it before the customer, she technically deserved the deal. But in the very next breath, Carrie used the fact that the customer had actually paid first as the reason she was being nice and giving her the set in the first place. It was a tangled mess of excuses, contradictions, and outright lies. This kind of circular reasoning is a hallmark of habitual liars and scammers. Rather than admit fault or take accountability, Carrie twisted the narrative until it no longer made sense, hoping to confuse the buyer or wear her down enough to just let it go. What should have been a straightforward sale turned into yet another example of Carrie creating chaos and mistrust, all while refusing to take responsibility for her own actions. Eventually, the customer grew tired of Carrie's endless excuses and contradictions and asked once again for a refund. This time, Carrie didn't even bother pretending to be nice. She exposed her true colors by flat out refusing, bluntly telling the customer that she doesn't do refunds. That was the end of the discussion for her. Now, whether or not this particular customer ever actually received the nails remains unclear. But what is crystal clear is the unprofessional and hostile way Carrie treated the people who supported her. Instead of valuing her buyers, she dismissed them, manipulated them, and then shut them down entirely when they dared to ask for something as basic as their money back. And this is where the larger picture comes into focus. Carrie's behavior is not about one bad order or a misunderstanding. It's a deliberate pattern. Lure fans in with a promise, guilt them into paying, twist this story when things go wrong, and finally shut them down when they push back. Her refusal to give refunds is not just laziness or bad business practice, it's part of the scam itself. By making it clear that once she has the money, there's no chance of getting it back, she conditions her followers into silence and discourages them from questioning her in the future. And like we said, this wasn't the only time something like this happened. Carrie wasn't just manipulative with her fans, she treated the people closest to her the exact same way, even those she called her friends. One of the clearest examples of this was her relationship with a woman named Candy, who also happened to be one of her moderators. Over the course of their friendship, Carrie repeatedly leaned on Candy for money. What started out as small $50 loans eventually snowballed into an astonishing amount, all while Carrie continued to promise repayment that almost never came. Aside from a single payment of about $22, it appears she never truly made good on her word. Carrie used every trick in the book to squeeze more out of Candy. She didn't approach her as a friend, she treated her like a lifeline, or more accurately, a cash cow. Whenever she needed money, she would guilt trip her, framing the situation as though Candy was the only person in the world she could rely on. In one text exchange, Carrie told her that she was stuck and hyperventilating, stressing that Candy was all she had. When Candy asked her what exactly she needed, Carrie immediately jumped to money, this time $80 for food, with yet another promise to pay her back by Friday. But when Candy hesitated, telling her she might not be able to send the cash, Carrie ramped up the pressure. She didn't just ask again, she leaned hard into manipulation, repeating that Candy was all she had, trying to make her feel responsible for Carrie's well-being. And when words weren't enough, she escalated. If Candy didn't respond quickly enough, Carrie would spam call her until she answered, telling her she was having panic attacks and that she needed help immediately. What makes this so revealing is the way it mirrors Carrie's behavior with her fans. Whether it's a stranger in her live streams or someone she calls a friend, she uses the same set of tactics: emotional manipulation, guilt-tripping, fake urgency, and empty promises of repayment. She thrives on creating a sense of crisis by making it seem as if someone doesn't give her money right now, she might fall apart completely. But once the money's in her pocket, the promises fade away and the cycle starts again. Whenever Candy tried to step back or distance herself, Carrie would immediately ramp up the pressure. If Candy didn't respond, Carrie would blow up her phone with repeated calls until she finally answered. Every call and text came with the same goal, getting more money. What's striking in these exchanges is that Carrie was almost self-aware about what she was doing. She knew she already owed Candy money, and she seemed to understand that Candy was hesitant to respond because of it. But instead of respecting that boundary, she kept increasing the pressure, while at the same time lowering the amount she claimed to need. At first, it was $80 for food. Then when Candy did text back, she would reduce the request to $75, anything to get at least something out of her. This exact tactic mirrored what she had done with paying customers, where she would start with a large demand and then graciously lower the price, making it seem like she was doing them a favor. On days when Carrie hadn't sold any nails, she would hit Candy up like it was a regular occurrence, asking for some more money. Her excuse would literally just be that she hadn't sold any nails that day. Carrie also leaned heavily into gaslighting and emotional manipulation. In one instance, she told Candy that sending her money would be the best Christmas gift she could receive, and even went as far as to say it would be the only gift she would get. With statements like this, Carrie was not simply asking for help. She was trying to guilt Candy into believing that her happiness and well-being were directly tied to whether or not she got money out of her. By framing it as though denying her would be cruel and heartless, she turned a simple refusal into something that would make Candy feel personally responsible for her suffering. This kind of psychological manipulation is exactly why Carrie was able to take advantage of people for so long. She blurred the line between friendship and obligation, between generosity and guilt. For Candy, who clearly cared about Carrie at one point, it must have been incredibly difficult to push back. Every time she tried, Carrie twisted the narrative until helping her felt like the only option. This cycle happened so often that Carrie eventually admitted she owed Candy nearly $500, yet in the very same breath she would ask for more. There was no pause, no sense of guilt, just another request stacked on top of an already massive debt. The saddest part was that Candy genuinely saw Carrie as a friend. She wanted to support her, she trusted her, and she believed that at some point she would make good on her promises to pay her back. But Carrie never treated Candy like a friend. To her, Candy was simply another source of cash, someone she could manipulate with emotional pleas and guilt trips whenever she needed. Carrie was not only manipulative, but she was also shockingly inconsiderate as a friend. On one occasion when she asked Candy for money, Candy couldn't respond right away. When she finally did, she explained it was because she was in the hospital struggling to breathe. For most people, that would be a clear moment to show compassion, or at the very least back off. But not for Carrie. She brushed right past the fact that her friend was in the ER, and instead of offering support, doubled down on her request. She shamelessly asked for another $100, as if her friend's medical emergency meant nothing compared to her own need for cash. This was not a one-off incident, but part of a larger, consistent pattern. Carrie had admitted that she owed Candy nearly $500 in unpaid loans, yet she still had no hesitation in asking for more. She never seemed embarrassed, never seemed grateful, and never even acknowledged the stress she was putting on someone who genuinely cared about her. At some point, Carrie must have sensed that Candy and her husband were growing tired of her endless borrowing. The small loans of $40 or $50 had snowballed over time, and by Candy's own account, the total Carrie owed was now close to $1,000. Even with that staggering debt hanging over her, Carrie did not slow down. Instead, she pulled the same manipulative tactic she had used countless times before, making promises she had no intention of keeping. She told Candy that if she could just send her money one more time, it would be the very last time she ever had to ask. For someone who genuinely wanted to believe Carrie was her friend, this kind of statement could be powerful. It dangled the hope that maybe this time it'd be different, that Carrie really did recognize how much she had taken and was finally ready to change. And once again, Candy gave in. She sent the money, even though Carrie had shown her repeatedly that the cycle never ends. And as expected, it didn't take long for Carrie to backtrack on her so-called promise that it would be the last time. You see, old habits die hard, and for Carrie, begging and manipulating had become second nature. Soon enough, she was back in Candy's DMs, asking for yet another loan, this time $80. But by now the pattern had become painfully clear, and Candy finally reached her breaking point. She stopped replying to the endless messages on Instagram, choosing instead to protect her peace from someone who had proven time and time again that she would never stop talking. However, losing her cash cow sent Carrie spiraling. She lashed out in a fit of anger, leaving Candy a string of nasty messages where she called her a liar, a hater, and of course, Carrie's favorite insult of all, a troll. This choice of words is almost laughable given the context. Candy calmly reminded her that trolls don't loan people over $1,000. Trolls don't get hounded with late-night calls and spam messages from someone claiming to be their friend. Trolls don't go out of their way to help someone in need, only to be left empty-handed. What Candy and her husband had been was generous, far too generous, and Carrie had taken advantage of it at every turn. Instead of showing remorse or even acknowledging the truth, Carrie tried to flip the script. She accused Candy and her husband of throwing money at her, as if their financial help had been unsolicited, as if she hadn't begged, guilt-tripped, and spam-called them relentlessly every time she wanted something. But the reality is the exact opposite. Carrie hounded Candy for every dollar, often lowering the amount she was begging for just to make it harder for Candy to say no. These weren't gifts or handouts freely offered. They were extracted under pressure, emotional manipulation, and sometimes outright harassment. By the end of it, Candy and her husband made it clear that they were done being used. They told Carrie they would be pressing charges for the money she never returned, a debt that had stacked up into the thousands. Whether or not Carrie took this threat seriously is unclear, but her reaction speaks volumes. Something that quickly becomes noticeable when looking at Carrie's behavior is the way she speaks to the people she scams. Her communication style is drenched in sweetness, but it's a sweetness with a purpose. She uses pet names, exaggerated affection, and constant reassurances of love and gratitude. At first glance, it might look like she's simply being warm and friendly, but in reality, this is a calculated manipulation tactic. Carrie's sweet tone is her bait, the sugar-coating that makes it easier for her to convince people to give her what she wants. She tells her fans and friends how important they are to her, how much she loves them, and how grateful she is for their support. In the moment, it feels validating to the recipient, who wouldn't like being told they matter. But Carrie weaponizes this affection. By showering people with compliments and endearments, she builds a false sense of closeness that she can exploit later. Once someone believes they're special to her, they are far more likely to overlook her red flags, excuse her missteps, and most importantly, give her money when she asks. This is exactly how she treated Candy. To Carrie, Candy was not a friend, she was a source of income. But Carrie masked her true intentions behind affectionate words, making Candy believe their bond was genuine. Whenever Carrie needed money, she leaned harder into the act, calling Candy pet names, sending over-the-top messages about how much she meant to her, and making sure to remind Candy that she was still all she had. It was an emotional trap. Candy wasn't just giving money to a TikTok personality, she thought she was supporting someone who loved and valued her. She literally admits to only being friends with Candy because she was throwing money at her in her very next live.
Period. That's why I wasn't friends with you anyways. I just went along with it because you was throwing me money. Let's tell the real truth. Let's tell the real truth, y'all.
Another instance of Carrie trying to squeeze money out of her fans took place during one of her live streams, where she suddenly paused the stream without explanation. A few minutes later, she returned and told her audience that she had just been informed by her landlord that she was being evicted. According to Carrie, the landlord told her directly that she would no longer be allowed to stay in the house, and she claimed that she argued back by saying the rent had already been paid for that month and that she and her family weren't going anywhere.
This place, we have rights. We have rights, and this shouldn't be allowed. Because the lady just came to the door, that's why I had you guys on pause, and the two main people on the leaves came and says, well, they're moved out, so you got to be out by tomorrow or I'm filing eviction.
I don't believe her because she said, that's why I had you guys on pause, because the lady just came and said that they're filing an eviction against us. There's no way she wouldn't have live streamed that if it's exactly what she's saying, that they paid their rent and the landlord is in the wrong. She would love to have footage of that for these live streamers to see. because of that backs up her story and helps her get more donations. Furthermore, you can download your own lives. Like, even if you're not screen recording yourself, afterwards you can go into somewhere. I haven't done it in like over a year, but you could go somewhere in your TikTok, settings, and you can download. So if she had that kind of footage of a landlord saying you're getting evicted, and then her saying, but we paid the rent for this month, and the landlord saying it doesn't matter. Like, if it was like that and the landlord wasn't saying something like you haven't paid rent in 3 months, or you're doing something else illegal or against policy, or that didn't even happen, otherwise she would not have put it on pause.
That's what the letter said, the end of May, but why is she telling us tomorrow? I said, we have rights. They're grimy here, y'all. They're grimy here. I said, do what you gotta do. We have rights. We don't have to be out of here by tomorrow. Our rent's paid for this month.
Now, if this were anyone else, it might be reasonable to give them the benefit of the doubt. Housing insecurity is unfortunately common, and people do sometimes face wrongful eviction threats. But with Carrie Walls, her history makes it impossible to take such claims at face value. She has repeatedly fabricated stories of crisis whenever she needs money, so each new emergency she presents has to be examined carefully. The first issue with her eviction story is how it was presented. Carrie claimed she had paused her live stream to take the landlord's call, but if the landlord truly had been threatening to wrongfully evict her, why didn't she leave the stream running and capture the confrontation? Having that moment live on video would have been powerful evidence in her favor. Not only would it have proven her story, but it would have also generated an enormous amount of sympathy and support, almost certainly leading to an outpouring of donations. Given how quick Carrie usually is to broadcast every supposed hardship for cash, it makes no sense that she would conveniently choose not to show the most dramatic and serious moment of all. That alone makes her claim suspicious. Either she didn't think fast enough in the moment, which is possible, or she was lying altogether. And when we consider her established pattern of dishonesty, manipulation, and money grabbing, the second option seems far more likely. There's also the matter of her rent claim. She insisted she had already paid her landlord and that the eviction attempt was unfair. But given her history, it's far more believable that she was behind on rent and simply used this as an opportunity to craft yet another sob story for her fans. Carrie has cried wolf so many times that even situations which might be genuine come across as scams, and that's the consequence of a reputation built on habitual deceit. Ultimately, the landlord eviction story is just another example of Carrie Walls leaning on a sudden, unverifiable crisis to stir up sympathy and pressure her followers into giving her money. Whether it was fabricated outright or heavily exaggerated, it fits her pattern perfectly. Create drama, present herself as the victim, and hope that viewers will open their wallets to bail her out. Besides this, her various actions like scamming her fans and begging online made her a joke all over the internet. People would start calling her out for constantly messing up their orders or begging them for money, so they started to make videos on her and call her out. One of the examples of her being called out by her customers was posted by TikTok user @cat.shepherd, who shared her story publicly. At first glance, the interaction looked routine. Cat was interested in Carrie's nails, so she reached out, asked about him, and Carrie assured her she could deliver. Everything seemed straightforward, and Cat had no reason to suspect she was about to enter the same cycle of manipulation and frustration that countless others had already gone through. The very next day, though, Carrie revealed her true colors. Instead of following up with shipping details, she messaged Cat again, not to discuss the nails, but to ask for money. She claimed she was struggling, saying she needed cash for coffee and food. As always, Carrie tried to dress up this request in a way that made it sound less like outright begging. She offered Cat a special deal, saying that if she sent $40 right then, Carrie would include an extra set of nails on top of what she had already ordered. Cat's response was polite but firm. She explained that she was a mother of 6 and had already stretched her budget to buy the nails she was owed. There was no extra money to give, and she declined the offer respectfully. At this point, Carrie already owed her 2 sets of nails. One from a giveaway Cat had won fair and square, and one from a purchase she had made specifically to wear on Christmas. Despite that, Carrie had the audacity to ask her for even more money, before she had even fulfilled her initial obligation.
Oh,
My girls get their nails, so...
Okay, so I did get my nails. Well, not my nails. Not the nails that I ordered, not the nails that I paid for. A pair that she chose because she sold the ones that I paid for out from underneath me after I had already paid for them. If you read the very first interaction that she had with me, she's trying to tell me that she hasn't even received my money yet from PayPal. She received my money the night that I paid for the nails. I paid through Venmo.
A few days later, Carrie circled back. She told Kat she was finally sending both sets of nails out. For once, she actually followed through, but only partially. Kat received one package in the mail, but instead of both sets, she only got a single pair. The Christmas nails she had paid for were missing. When Kat followed up to ask about the rest of the order, Carrie reassured her that she would send these Santa nails in time for the holiday. But as with so many others before, the reassurance turned out to be empty. Each time Kat asked for an update, Carrie dodged responsibility with another excuse. Sometimes she said she thought she had sent them to someone else by mistake. Other times she claimed she had forgotten, promising she would include them in the next order. This went on for days, dragging out until Christmas had essentially come and gone. By the time the holiday passed, the nails Kat had ordered for that occasion were useless, as she had wanted them specifically to wear for Christmas celebrations. Frustrated, Kat finally asked the obvious question. If Carrie was unable or unwilling to send the nails, why not just refund the money? That way Kat could use the money to buy from someone else and avoid more stress. Carrie's response was the same one she gave in nearly every situation like this, saying, "I don't do refunds." Instead of taking accountability, she shifted the promise again. She told Kat she would ship the nails in time for New Year's, reframing them as New Year's nails instead of Christmas ones.
She received my money the night that I paid for the nails. I paid through Venmo. The very next day, she messages me with a question. What is that question, you ask? More money. She wants more money. She's asking me to send her more money because she doesn't have money for food or coffee, which means she doesn't have shipping to send my nails out either. November 21st, she messages me to let me know she is trying to send my nails out, but I didn't receive it. I had an emergency. November 27th, she shipped my nails. On the 30th, I received one set of nails, which is the set that I won. I did not receive the ones that I paid $65 for. I explained that to her. She then lets me know that she'll get them out as soon as possible. Mind you, they're Santa nails, supposed to be, okay? It's December. If she doesn't get them to me, I'm not going to get to wear them. So as you can see on the 4th, I asked her if she sent them. She says no, she hasn't sent them yet, but she'll try her hardest to get them to me. So then I message her and I let her know that if it's too much of an hassle, then I voice my concern that it's, it's late in Christmas. I'm not going to be able to wear the nails. She tells me I can switch them for New Year's nails. I said, okay, we can do that.
This type of pivot is classic Carrie. Rather than admit failure, she constantly reframes her actions to make it look as though she's doing her customers a favor. In this case, when Kat agreed to accept the New Year's nails, Carrie made a point of telling her that the set she was sending was actually more expensive than the original Christmas nails. According to Carrie, she was sending them at the same price out of the goodness of her heart, as though Kat owed her gratitude. In reality, Kat was still missing what she had originally paid for, yet Carrie was trying to manipulate her into feeling indebted. However, as New Year's approached, Kat's patience wore thin. Once again, she had no nails to show for her money. Carrie tried to string her along one more time by promising not just the missing pair, but an extra set of nails as well. Unsurprisingly, this never happened. Instead, Carrie backtracked yet again, saying she no longer had the New Year's nails in stock. Her new solution was to send Kat 2 random pairs instead. This so-called compromise was nothing more than another stall tactic, and it completely ignored the fact that Kat had ordered and paid for something specific. At every stage of this ordeal, Carrie had the opportunity to do the right thing. She could have sent the nails as promised. She could have admitted she made a mistake. She could have refunded the money. Instead, she chose the same cycle of manipulation and deceit we've seen in every other case. What makes this situation especially frustrating is how it mirrors Carrie's treatment of others, like her longtime friend Candy. Just as she guilt-tripped Candy into sending her hundreds of dollars, she tried to guilt-trip Kat into believing she was being kind by offering more expensive nails for the same price. Just as she strung Candy along with promises of repayment that never came, she strung Kat along with promises of delivery that never happened. The tactics are interchangeable. Whether dealing with a fan, a customer, or a friend, Carrie relies on the same manipulative playbook. Another more recent incident took place this year with TikTok user @mommyof290, who decided to share her own experience dealing with Carrie. In her TikTok, she showed that the nails she received were once again not the nails she had ordered. This wasn't a case of nitpicking small details or being unreasonable. It was yet another instance of Carrie sending out the wrong product entirely. What stood out about this situation was how polite and reasonable the customer was in her video. Rather than attacking Carrie or immediately accusing her of scamming, she calmly explained the mistake and asked Carrie to simply send her the correct nails. In other words, she gave Carrie the opportunity to do the right thing and resolve the issue without conflict. But this moment also highlights the deeper problem with Carrie's business practices. Time and time again, customers like @mommyof290 approach her with patience, understanding, and even sympathy, only to be met with excuses, delays, or outright refusal. What could have been a simple matter of fixing a mistake and sending the correct order instead turns into yet another example of how Carrie's business is built on the wrong foundations.
Hi guys, so if you know this package, then you know I got a set of nails from Carrie Walls. I will not go into the full story right now. My baby's complaining, she's hungry, but I'm not gonna go into the full story right now. I do have an unboxing, but I got the wrong nails. I contacted her and let's see if she's gonna make things right. I always believe that I always want to give people the benefit of the doubt that if they make a mistake, they'll fix it, you know? So let's see, I have an event June 5th, which is why I got the nails for. So let's see if she's gonna send them to me. I know there's like a lot going on with like eviction and stuff, so I'm really hoping I will get them before then. So yeah, I'll give you guys an update. June 5th, we'll see. Let's hope sooner, we'll see. But yeah, stay tuned, follow, so you don't miss this.
Of course, Carrie didn't do anything to make this situation right, which is something that has sadly become expected of her. In fact, when this person tried to confront Carrie directly on one of her live streams, rather than addressing the problem like a responsible business owner, Carrie blocked her. This move is extremely telling. Instead of taking accountability, she chose the easier path of silencing her customer, cutting off communication, and acting as though the issue never happened. It's a tactic she has used repeatedly, shutting down criticism not by proving herself right, but by refusing to let anyone speak against her in the first place. But being blocked didn't discourage @mommyof290. Instead, it pushed her to share the full truth. She posted screenshots of their Instagram conversations, revealing yet another pattern of Carrie's manipulation. At first glance, the messages looked fairly normal. Like in many of her previous interactions with customers, Carrie initially put on her sweet, reassuring tone. When told that the wrong nails had been received, Carrie quickly responded that there was no need to worry and promised that the correct nails would be sent out soon. For someone unfamiliar with her behavior, this might sound reasonable, but for those who have followed her history, it was just another empty promise.
And then here I'm telling her that these are not the nails that I ordered. I got LV-inspired nails, but not with the Hello Kitty and all that. And they didn't fit anyway. So it says here that she will fix it, and it was the mailman's bad, and blah, blah, blah. Not the fact that she just puts nails in a freaking, like those grass.
As time passed, it became clear that the nails were never going to arrive. @mommyof290 had explained that she needed them for a specific event, stressing that time was important. Carrie, rather than honoring that, began dragging her along with excuses. The most notable excuse came when she claimed that her mother was in the ICU. Suddenly, the issue was no longer about nails or business, but about a personal tragedy that she used to shut down the conversation.
And now you have this. My mom's in the hospital. I don't have a car. And excuses and excuses and excuses. And,
What makes this worse is that her client responded with genuine empathy. She didn't argue or pressure Carrie further. Instead, she showed kindness and consideration, giving Carrie the benefit of the doubt and deciding to let it go. This shows just how much patience and goodwill customers often give her, despite being mistreated. But as always, that empathy was abused. The turning point came when this lady later joined one of Carrie's live streams and politely asked her again about the nails. Rather than acknowledging the previous conversations or even being honest about not fulfilling the order, Carrie flat out denied the accusations in front of her viewers. She acted as if nothing had happened, discrediting her own customer publicly. And then, in typical fashion, she shut the door completely by blocking her.
So, Carrie Walls, here's my proof that I ordered nails and I paid you and you never sent them to me on your live a couple days ago when you blocked me when I told you that I didn't get the correct nails. You were like, no, that's bullshit. There would be videos on TikTok and blah, blah, blah. There is. And here's the receipts.
This case highlights several of Carrie's repeated behaviors that we've seen in other stories. First, the false reassurance, promising to deliver or fix the issue while never actually intending to. Second, the emotional manipulation, in this case using her mother's supposed ICU stay as a shield to avoid accountability. And third, the silencing of criticism, denying the truth and blocking customers so that her audience doesn't see the reality of her business practices. However, this was not the only time Carrie used her mother's health as an excuse to avoid accountability. In 2022, a woman named Stacy, known on TikTok as I Don't Claim You, ordered nails from Carrie and waited over a month without receiving them. When she finally asked for an update, Carrie claimed that her mother had fallen ill and that this was why the nails had not been sent. At first, it might have sounded believable, but Stacy quickly pointed out the problem. She had placed her order more than a month before Carrie's mother was ever in the hospital. This made it clear that Carrie was once again using her mother's health as a cover story rather than taking responsibility for failing to deliver. Just like in so many other cases, she relied on sympathy and emotional manipulation instead of honesty, showing that this was not a one-time excuse but a recurring tactic to keep customers quiet while keeping their money. Besides all of the manipulation and scamming, Carrie's actual product quality started drawing criticism as well. Reddit threads began filling with posts from unhappy customers who received nails that were nothing like what they had ordered. One user uploaded photos of the nails she got from Carrie, and the results were brutal. The nails looked tacky, poorly constructed, and completely different from what she had requested. The comment section shredded Carrie's work. One user wrote, OMG, so tacky. I could never wear something with so many of these on there. And if they aren't done correctly, won't those just pop off? They have to be rough. Others piled on with similar comments, pointing out how unprofessional the nails looked and how quickly they would fall apart. Another customer shared a picture of her order and gave her an even harsher review. Instead of resembling professional press-on nails, the set she received looked unsanitary and uncomfortable to wear. As she described it, my hair would get caught in every single gem, not to mention they look like mold or fungus. What in the world? This was not just about artistic taste. These nails genuinely looked unhygienic. Her being unhygienic with her products was also a serious problem that many people started to call out on Reddit. It wasn't just that her nails often arrived looking sloppy or cheap, but customers began reporting that the nails themselves smelled strongly of cigarettes. This suspicion was later confirmed when clips from her live stream started circulating online. In one particular video, she showed the corner of the room where she kept her nail supplies. What viewers saw was shocking. The area was cluttered, messy, and visibly dirty. Supplies were piled in a corner of what looked like a very filthy room. There was no sense of sanitation, no organization, and certainly no professional work environment. For people who had already been critical of her nails, this footage was the final straw. One Reddit user reposted the clip with a caption that summed up the general reaction perfectly. "This is disgusting. People buy nails from this pig. OMG, it's unsanitary. Stop already."
Y'all, I had to do a video on this. This box right here, y'all, guess what it is? Guess what it is? It's a bunch of full cover nails. Gel X, E-Nail Couture. I have Nails by Dev. I have a bunch of nails in here, okay? And they're all clear.
The fact that Carrie openly broadcast these conditions on her live stream shows how little she cared about maintaining even the most basic standards. Carrie seemed indifferent, which reinforces the idea that she never took her business seriously. To her, it was just another way to get money out of people, not a craft or profession that she respected. In short, the hygiene issue wasn't an isolated complaint. It was part of the same scam pattern we've seen in every other area of Carrie's behavior. She takes people's money, delivers subpar or faulty products if she delivers at all, and when confronted, she deflects blame by claiming her critics are trolls. What these posts reveal is another side of Carrie's scheme. Not only was she scamming people out of money, but refusing refunds and making endless excuses, but even when she did send out orders, they were often rushed, sloppy, and completely different from what was promised. Customers weren't just losing money, they were also receiving items that were unusable. This is a classic hallmark of a scammer. Not just dishonesty in communication, but a fundamental lack of care in the product itself. The discussion around the quality of Carrie's nails naturally led people to question the prices she was charging. Customers quickly realized that her products were being sold at a premium rate, despite being of extremely low quality. It wasn't just a matter of taste. Many of the nails were tacky, bulky, or poorly constructed, with stones falling off in shapes that didn't last even a day. For something that was marketed as luxury handmade press-ons, the result often looked cheap and careless. However, after Carrie was exposed online for repeatedly scamming her customers and mistreating her so-called friends, it was only a matter of time before people started digging deeper into how she actually made her nails. The prices, what exactly were customers paying for? To defend herself against mounting criticism, Carrie claimed that she only used high-quality supplies from a reputable company called Nails by Dev. This brand is known in the nail community for producing reliable, professional-grade materials. So by aligning herself with them, Carrie was trying to give her customers a false sense of security. In fact, on her live streams, she went out of her way to show boxes of Nails by Dev products. This was clearly a performance, a way to silence critics and reassure her audience that they weren't being ripped off. But the reality is obvious. Even if she owned a few boxes of supplies, the final products she was producing were undeniably low grade. Just having the boxes on hand doesn't mean the nails she was making lived up to the quality associated with Nails by Dev.
Nails by Dev. I have a bunch of nails in here, okay?
But this is where Carrie's scam behavior runs even deeper, because it wasn't only her customers or friends whom she was trying to manipulate and exploit, she was also targeting the very suppliers she claimed to use. In one instance, Carrie placed orders from Nails by Dev, received the products, and then claimed she had never gotten them. The goal was clear: to trick the company into refunding her money while still keeping and using the supplies.
And you will see what my point is with ordering from her and why I did that. So recently, Carrie ordered from a business called Nails by Dev, and she's claiming that she never received the package and she tried to get her money back from that. And Nails by Dev kind of was like, yeah, you got your package. I sent you your package. There's proof that you got your package. You are basically trying to get a bunch of product for free and scam me out of my money.
This is classic scammer behavior, attempting to take advantage of not just individual customers, but established businesses as well. And in typical Carrie fashion, she sabotaged herself through her own carelessness. Even while lying about not receiving the products, she was simultaneously showing the exact same boxes of Nails by Dev items on her live streams as proof of her quality. By doing this, she revealed her scam to the entire internet, essentially leaving a trail of evidence that connected her fake claims directly back to her. The irony is painful. She thought she was silencing trolls by flashing these boxes on camera, when in reality she was confirming her own dishonesty. If she truly hadn't received her orders, how could she be proudly showing them off in her live videos? And when internet users began compiling clips of her making these contradictions, it became undeniable that Carrie wasn't just a bad business owner, but a habitual liar who would try to rip off anyone, customers, friends, even the companies she bought from. Now, this incident with Nails by Dev is particularly important because it shows how systematic Carrie's scamming behavior really is. It wasn't about one or two mistakes or about her being bullied by online trolls. It was about a consistent pattern where every interaction, whether personal or professional, was twisted into an opportunity for her to extract money, goods, or sympathy. By lying about receiving shipments, she wasn't just scamming individuals who might be too scared to call her out. She was actively trying to take advantage of a legitimate business with a strong reputation. That shows a level of audacity and recklessness that goes beyond simple incompetence. What's worse, this also destroys one of her main defenses. Carrie always tries to claim that the people criticizing her are haters or jealous trolls. But you can't really call a supplier a troll after you've scammed them. When she got caught lying about her orders, it revealed the truth to even more people, that Carrie's scams were real, consistent, and broad in scope. She wasn't a misunderstood small business owner under attack. She was someone who built her entire brand on deception, shortcuts, and fraud. What's worse is that this was not the end of it either. As more people began looking closely at Carrie's business, fans started noticing something shocking. Many of the exact same styles of nails she claimed were her original creations could be found on websites like Temu for just $3 or $4. Carrie was presenting them as if they were carefully handcrafted sets, justifying her sky-high prices by claiming she put in hours of work and only used the best supplies. In reality, what she often seemed to be doing was taking these cheap, pre-made sets and throwing on a few rhinestones or glitter before sending them out. The problem was that even those additions were poorly done, with the rhinestones quickly falling off and the glitter fading almost immediately. The price difference was staggering. While Temu and other discount websites offered the same sets for less than the price of a cup of coffee, Carrie was charging her followers over $100. One Reddit user back in 2022 even posted proof that they found nearly identical nails for $4, while Carrie was selling them for $110, plus an extra $10 for shipping. The comparison was damning, and it made clear that her customers were being grossly overcharged for something that was not original, not high quality, and not worth the price she demanded. And this is not just old behavior either. Even on her new account, Daisy34, Carrie has continued the same shady tactics. Just 11 days before the creation of this very video, she was promoting a new set of nails that she marketed as her own original work. But it didn't take long for people to uncover the truth. The exact same set was found on Amazon for only $4, proving once again that she was simply reselling cheap, mass-produced products while pretending they were handcrafted. But guess what? She was caught almost immediately, and the proof was posted on Reddit for everyone to see. The community did not hold back. One commenter perfectly summed it up by saying, "Yes, those nails are all over Temu, Amazon, and Shein. Probably eBay too. Anywhere that sells inexpensive made-in-China items. Carrie will just say she got inspiration from them. But if I was her and really made my nails, I wouldn't make anything inspired by anything on Temu or Shein. Now, if she really liked this set, make it in another color. Make the flowers blue or purple, or make the background orange and the flowers black. Like, switch it up." I'm sure Carrie bought these for a few bucks and added the builder gel, and boom, she handmade them. This discovery only fueled the growing backlash against her. It showed that Carrie's dishonesty went beyond delays, excuses, or poor customer service. It revealed a deeper pattern of deception, where she built her entire brand on lies, tricking people into believing they were supporting a hard-working small business, when in reality, they were just being scammed into paying luxury prices for dollar store nails. At the end of the day, Carrie Walls isn't just another messy TikTok personality. She's the definition of what happens when lies and manipulation take center stage. What started as a nail page turned into a non-stop carousel of scams, sob stories, and shameless begging. And the wildest part, Carrie still doesn't see herself as the problem. In her mind, everyone else is the liar, the troll, the hater, but the proof says otherwise. Her playbook never changed. Play the victim, guilt people into paying, drag them in circles when they ask questions, then block or insult them when they push back. Fans, friends, even businesses, nobody was off limits. Carrie wasn't running a business. She was running a cycle of exploitation. What made it even more ridiculous was how public it all was. She didn't scam in secret. She live-streamed it. She begged, love-bombed, and pressured her viewers in real time, talking to them like they were her personal ATM. And when people caught on, instead of stopping, she doubled down. That's not bad business. That's predatory behavior. But here is the thing about the internet. Receipts don't disappear. For every excuse Carrie made, there was a screenshot, a video, or a thread breaking it all down. The more she denied, the more people compared notes and realized they weren't alone. The scams weren't accidents, they were a pattern. And once that pattern was exposed, the entire act collapsed. At this point, Carrie Walls isn't known for nails or content. She's known for scams, excuses, and chaos. She wanted to be TikTok famous, but she got exactly the opposite. She's infamous, and for all the wrong reasons. On this note, we'd like to end today's video. If you stayed this far, then don't forget to like the video and comment down below to let us know your thoughts on Carrie Walls. Do you think people should report her for her scams and stop buying from her altogether?